Hi everyone, it's Jerry. Let's have a look at a game from round 1 of the 2019 Altibox Norway Chess tournament. On the white end, Magnus Carlsen, and he's paired against Vishy Anand. This is their Armageddon game. They drew their classical game, and so per the format of this tournament, that's what sparked the Armageddon game. Here's a nice shot of them in action, photo courtesy of Lennart Otis, the official photographer of the event. Doing well to capture a couple endings here. This is from their classical game, rook and pawn ending moments before Anand plays h6. Grishuk looking on. And it also tells the story of how Ding Liren defeated Wesley So in their Armageddon game, capturing that final move. Okay, this game here, we have, in English, opening. The bishop b4 noted as the Kramnik-Shirov Counterattack. Given the chance, maybe black gives white doubled c-pawns. Not in this game. The knight jumps in. Bishop backs off. And white plays this as if there is already a minor piece imbalance, and so cracks open the position. It's true that by capturing on d4 here, black is bringing one of the white pieces into play, helping white to develop a piece, but black will gain a tempo back shortly. Knight f6, 6 moves in now, minor piece imbalance present, and white is working with now an unopposed bishop, and immediately putting it to work. Coordinated pressure now on f6. Serious threat to chop away and give black double isolated f-pawns. So how to cope with this? Knight c6, queen backs off, maintains pressure, and now knight e5, interfering with the queen seeing f6. From here, knight f3. It may be tempting now, playing as black, to capture on f3, preparing to meet queen takes knight with, let's say, queen b4, check, and maybe c4 falls. But knight takes knight would not be good, because white will simply take with the g-pawn. White is okay, in other words, with having doubled f-pawns. White will gladly follow with queenside castles, have a nice cozy home, immediate rook activity, and also enjoy nice coordinated pressure on the dark squares. g7 will soon become sensitive. Black will always be sensitive some on the dark squares with this guy around. So not a good idea to welcome this coordinated pressure. Okay, instead we have black opening up the bishop's eyes. White likes that idea as well. And there is a question black must answer: how to get out of this pin. Let's see. h6, white keeps the pin. And sometimes the solid way out of this pin, solid meaning, the way to break the pin without making a concession with your structure, without playing g5, is to put the knight on g6 and say back off, bishop, go to g3. But in this particular case, again, the knight has the responsibility to shield the queen from seeing f6. So knight g6 here, white chops away. And yeah, this is what black wants to avoid. If in this position the queen was on c2, this would be a nice solid way out of the pin. Not here though. In this game, g5, preparing to meet the move bishop g3 with knight e4. And what do we have here? Well, the bishop is officially hunted. So white first takes on e5. Believe it or not, move 12 is already a critical moment in this game. This next decision will set the stage for the rest of the game. Black to move. What is the best move here? Feel free to pause the video. Okay. In the game, pawn takes knight. What is best, however, is knight to e4, hitting the queen. And let's have a look at a couple variations from here. After knight to e4, if white simply reacts to this threat. Black will take the knight, still be on this bishop, and have the move queen a5. White will soon have to go uncastled. Okay. Well, suppose in this position the white queen doesn't react. Instead, we have this move, considered one of the better moves for white in this position. Looks a little crazy. Each side ignoring one another's threats. Considered best here is basically this queen exchange, where at the end of the day, what we're going to have is this bishop being hunted by the knight. This is all extremely important. I'm not just sharing this variation for fun. Again, this is setting the stage for the rest of the game. What happens in the game is pawn takes knight, and now once bishop g3 is in there is no longer time for knight to e4. Knight e4 will be met with queen takes pawn, game over. It's not just the win of a pawn, this is game over. After bishop g3, black has to now go on the defensive, address this threat against e5. The bishop will live and be an amazing piece. So, what do we have from here? White looks to open up the rook, break the dark squares down some. Black does not want the position to open up. Plays g4. c5, grabbing some queenside space. If this pawn is picked off, it's no good. Because of queen takes, knight takes, and white not only regains the pawn, but will soon win a pawn. c7. This pawn is poison. h5, rook c1, now you just can't take it. From here, c6, given a chance, maybe white would just push and blast open the queenside structure. Right? Just making a dummy move. c6, and what do we have? Split pawns, isolated pawns. Okay, c6 by black. Bishop d3. Kingside castles. Kingside castle. And rook to e8. So the knight's going to have to move. Black needs some defense, some additional defense over e5 before this queenside, we can say, gets developed. So two pieces now on e5. And rook to d1. So all the white pieces contributing at this stage. The bishop on g3 is a really strong piece for a couple reasons. It is an offensive and defensive piece. I don't see any way black is able to successfully get at the white king with this structure, with this bishop helping to contribute. I mean, just picture the bishop as if it's a pawn. This is a super solid kingside structure, whereas the black pawns have drifted away from home. It's a little airy in black's camp. Okay. From here, knight f6. Bishop to b1, preparing to set up a battery. Knight d5, queen c2, mate in 2 threat. That's shut down with e4. But at the same time, something has been opened up. The bishop's eyes. White, with these past few moves, has been successful. h4, this battery here forming, generating this threat against h7. It's forcing these black pawns, right? We had black pawns just a moment ago on e5 and g5. Well, they took a step forward, and now the dark squares are that much more vulnerable in black's camp. In particular, d6. The bishop has a wonderful post on that square, and if given the chance, the rook would love to pivot there as well. Severely weakened now. The dark squares are severely weakened now in black's position. So, how does play proceed from here? It is first rook d4, preparing to double on the d file, not just that. paving the way for maybe b4. Okay. White would like to have this position open up a bit more, and it will on the queen side. This is where black is strong on d5. Okay, the additional point behind rook to d4, not just a double. It's threatening now e4, so that's defended. All of the black pawns have now drifted from the king. From here, a3, multi-purpose. Bishop eyes up the a2 square. The b pawn is ready to roll. So white is doubled. Here we go. b4 on board. Can only be prevented for so long. b5 is going to happen. This is a huge focal point. As soon as this knight moves, something's going to jump in there. The rook is going to jump in there. And this bishop, again, can't really say enough about it. It's doing a world of good. It's going to one day support a pawn on the d6 square. White is now gearing up for b5. Can play it right away. After takes, you cannot take back. In the game, it is knight f6, and the rook slides into d6. If you take in this position, white can play bishop d6, cutting off two key defenders of the knight. The knight will fall next. So, it would be a nice interference move. We don't have captures on b5, but rather knight f6, rook d6. Saying, if you take my rook, I'm going to take with the pawn. Thank you very much for the passed pawn. Basically feels like a connected passed pawn. Normally you only say that a protected passed pawn, connected passed pawn. You don't have to be protected by a pawn. The bishop is a wonderful piece. Bishops are exchanged. Queen f6 or queen f7. Keep the queens on or not? On. White has the safer king. The threat here is now queen takes rook, picking up two rooks for the queen. Rook takes, pawn takes. Queen d7. Some more exchanges, some more files are opening up. White makes use of it immediately. Rook f8, queen c7. I thought just a moment ago I said keep the queens on, you have the safer king. Well, it's a different story here. Queen takes queen. Pawn is, of course, recapturing. And how are you stopping this guy? He is just way too far advanced. Rook b8 and c8 would be nearby. So you can't take the queen. You really can't do anything here as black, but sit and wait. It's just a slow death. Rook f7, check. Bishop to e5. And not too much to do here. Knight d5, check. Queen to b8. The white pieces are officially swarming in. This pawn is passed, but it's just too far away from posing any serious threat to Team White. So from here we have knight f6. Bishop takes knight. Rook h6. King e5. And from here, final move of the game is queen to h8, black resigns. If rook to g7, you can pile away at the pinned rook and liquidate because you are pushing through. One final note is if you really wanted to do things in the very best way, this is actually a checkmate in 2 position. Instead of queen h7, the queen could also go to b2 and here for checkmate. But there's only a couple minutes on the clock, or right about a couple minutes on the clock for each of the players at this stage. So if you see one good move, and yeah, that's good enough. Queen to h8, and this one does the trick. Black ends up resigning. Don't forget how we got to this point. The early middle game decision. This is a 43 move game, right? Move 12, the decision on move 12, is what set the stage for the rest of the game. This is what allowed white to play for 2 results. There was never any fear of black attacking the white king. That bishop on g3 was enormous. Wonderful defender, attacker, supporting the pawn. Black did not find the best way forward on that move 12, did not find a way, or didn't appreciate how important it was, I guess we can say, to have the knight be exchanged for that dark square bishop. Didn't play that knight to e4 move, and that dark square bishop really controlled the whole game, we can say. If we have a look at the tail of the tape with this one, here we go, and we can see that this right here was in fact the key moment after knight takes e5, and the knee-jerk reaction, right, just immediately recapture with the pawn, was in fact not a good choice. Allowed the dark square bishop to live, and it was, white playing for either a win or a draw. No risk of a loss in this one. Final tally here: inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders. 3-0-0 for Carlsen, 3-4-1 Anand. Average centi-pawn loss, 16 and 41. The lower the number, the better. Okay, as usual, feel free to leave any feedback to this video in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed it, and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care. Bye.